Hello, dear audience. I will present to you my graduate research capstone project from my first master's degree. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Carlos de Aguilar Velin. I have cerebral palsy since I was born in Ecuador, and it caused me spastic dysarthria. Therefore, when people talk with me for the first time, they might not understand my speech, but I can communicate via email or personal iPads with speech apps for face-to-face interaction in English. People understand me better in Spanish. As everyone has dreams and goals, I have mine. My professional goal is to get a job position in the aviation industry. I am happy because I achieved my educational dream was to get my bachelor's and master's degrees in aviation related. Besides, I am pursuing a MBA degree in finance to combine with my aviation's degrees and expand my knowledge.
Too low terrain. Too low terrain. Too low
terrain.
This research study is about comparison of commercial aviation events reports in the Americas based on language. Researched by Carlos de Aguilar Velin. Graduate student. Master of Science in Aeronautics. Skills learned. I learned many skills like archival research process, CFIT contributory factors, and native language speaking flight crews are involved in this kind of mishap. Reasons for researching this topic. I researched this topic due to a family experience. When I was a child, my dad was involved in a serious CFIT incident in Ecuador. The incident occurred in an Ecuadorian jungle town where we lived. My dad was a flight engineer, but he also performed duties as the first officer in the Ecuadorian Aviation Army. One night, he and the pilot in command responded to an emergency in a rural town. A child was very sick, so the order has evacuated the child from the rural town to the city. The first leg of the flight was successful. They flew the Pilatus PC-12 that night. The final visual approach of the second leg was involved in this incident. The contributory factors were weather, a rainy night, miscommunication, airport control tower, no lights on the runway due to weather conditions. The miscommunication occurred in their native language speaking. The ATC instruction was like follow direction heading to the ambulance lights located on the edge of the runway, but the ambulance was not on the runway edge. It was located outside of the edge of the runway. They followed the airport control tower instruction. My dad had strong familiar knowledge with this airport, so it did not involve in an air crash with airport fuel reserve tanks. He turned to the right the aircraft in the last second, so this maneuver avoided the air crash. The right wings touched the runway, and it destroyed automatically. All occupants survived. CFIT and its importance. Controlled flight into terrain, CFIT, is one of the biggest contributors to fatal accidents and incidents around the world. The importance of this study was determined if non-native English-speaking flight crews are more vulnerable to CFIT occurrences than native English-speaking flight crews. Preventable. A controlled flight into terrain event is preventable if the flight crew performs adequate communication training when they are on the training period to become airline transport pilots. Results revealed that miscommunication and lack of communication were the most common probable causes of these types of mishaps. This study found a statistically significant between controlled flight into terrain and native language-speaking flight crew. The non-native language-speaking flight crew were involved in less controlled flight into terrain in the Americas. North America was the region with the most mishaps, 22, followed by South America with 5 mishaps, and Central America did not have any CFIT mishaps reported in the public domain. Recommendations. Research can be focused on 2 main probable causes, which are miscommunication and lack of communication. Focus the research on East, Central, Mountain, and West regions in North America. ICAO and FAA should design a universal hearing and pronunciation training for new members of the flight crew. Aviation regulators should revise current language training programs to identify anomalies. Flight schools should implement a complex course regarding all aspects of language, such as listening, pronunciation, and speech rate. Commercial air carriers should implement listening and speech simulators in the training centers. Members of flight crews should have the opportunity to practice their language skills on language simulators provided by air carriers or flight schools. Summary. Overall, this research question explored CFIT mishaps in the Americas, and it found that native language-speaking flight crew were involved in more CFIT accidents and incidents than non-native language-speaking flight crew. Future studies can research miscommunication chain in North America because it is the most probable cause of CFIT mishaps in this region. Questions or comments? Thank you for your attention.